Hello students, welcome to Science Learning Gateway. I hope you all are doing good. So today in this tutorial we are going to discuss class 8 science chapter number 10, right? Light, reflection and refraction. In part 1 of this chapter I have already covered the reflection part. So this will be the part 2 of this chapter. In this we will start from the refraction and we'll finish this refraction part in this chapter. So let's start with our discussion. I hope you all have gone through the video of the first part, light, reflection. If you have any doubt in that chapter, you can comment in the comment section. I will clear your doubt. And for the numericals, I will make a separate video so that your all the concepts will be cleared. Whatever the questions which are given in your NCERT will do those questions in the numerical section. Okay, so before starting guys, I have a small request from you all. If you are really liking my tutorial, then please click on the like button and share it with your friends also, and don't forget to click on the bell icon so that whenever I will be uploading a new video, you'll get the notification for that. And if you are new to my channel, then please subscribe it, and if you have any doubt in any chapter or any topic, you can comment in the comment section. I will try to clear your doubt. So let's start with our discussion. In the light chapter, we have already talked about reflection and the laws of reflection, virtual image, real image, the ray diagrams, the mirror formula. Those things we have already discussed in that. So now today we will start from the refraction. So now we'll start with the refraction part. So first of all, you should know the definition of refraction. When I have started the chapter in part 1, I have given a little idea about refraction. What I have told you, when the light will go from one medium to other medium, some bending will take place. It will not go in a straight way like this. Suppose this is our medium air and the second medium is our water. When the light will come from air to water, it should go like this, but it will not go like this. It will bend like this. Okay, so the ray of light is bending when it is going from the medium air to water. So this bending of light is called refraction. So now we'll read the definition of refraction. What is refraction? The bending of light when it enters from one transparent medium to another is called refraction. Just now I have given the example of air and water. When light will enter from air to water, it will bend. It will not go in a straight line. It will bend. So that is called refraction. Okay, and speed of light is maximum where? Speed of light is maximum in vacuum or air. It is, and what is the value of that? 3 into 10 to the power 8 meter per second. Remember this one. And what is the cause of refraction? Refraction is occurring, but there should be some cause of refraction, that is change in speed of light. When the light will enter from air to water, we know that the speed of light is different in air and different in water. So when the light will enter from air to water, speed is changing, so refraction is occurring. So this is the cause of refraction, change in speed of light. Okay, now we'll discuss few examples of refraction. Some examples are given in your textbook. That examples we'll discuss over there. In exams also sometimes question are asked, write 2 examples of refraction. That time you have to write those examples. First one, the bottom of tank or pond, swimming pool containing water appears to be raised. For example, any pond is there or any swimming pool is there. Okay, this is the bottom of that part. This is the medium air and this is the medium water. When you look from outside to that water, swimming pool, what you see, that the bottom of the swimming pool appears to be raised. Suppose the depth is 5 meter, but you'll see that bottom around 2 meter only. Why it is so? Because due to refraction, when the light will enter from air to water, what will happen? The ray of light will not go in a straight way, it will bend. So when the bending will take place, your the bottom part will appears to be raised. So that's why the bottom of the swimming pool or river or lake appears to be raised because of refraction. Second example is given in your textbook. A pencil partially immersed in water appears to be bent at the interface of air and water. Suppose this is one container like a glass. Half of this is filled with water, and if we will dip one pencil over there, half of the pencil will be outside the water and half will be inside the water. When you look from here, the exact position of the pencil is like this, but you will see the pencil over there. This is the apparent position. This is called the apparent position of the pencil. Why this is so? Because the ray of light should go like this, but because of refraction, the ray of light will bend. So the pencil will appear to you over there. Okay, a ray of light should come like this. From here you are watching the pencil, a ray of light should come like this. This is the exact position, but we cannot see this pencil over there. Because of refraction, the ray of light will bend and you will see the pencil at this point. This is called the apparent position of the pencil. So this is one of the example. Next example you can do by yourself. If you will take one glass and if you'll place some water in that and you'll put one lemon in it, and if you'll watch that lemon from outside, you'll see the lemon appears bigger in size. This is also because of refraction. So 3 examples of refraction are given over there. First one you can write, the bottom of tank or swimming pool containing water appears to be raised. Second one, a pencil partially immersed in water appears to be bent at the interface of air and water. This is the air part, this is the medium of air, and this is the water part. So in this point only, this is the interface of air and water. At this point only the pencil appears to be bent. Next one, lemon. If we will place one lemon in a glass container and if we look at the lemon from outside, the size of the lemon appears to be big. So these are the examples of refraction. Okay. Now our next topic is refraction through a rectangular glass slab. Suppose this is your glass slab, PQRS. Okay, this is a glass slab, PQRS. Outside the glass slab, we know that air is present. So that medium is air. But inside the glass slab, glass is there. So the medium will be glass. But again, if we will consider the outside of the glass, it will be air. So what we have to read in this one? Refraction is due to change in speed of light as it enters from one transparent medium to another. This is the cause of refraction. Why the refraction occurs? Due to change in speed of light when the light will enter from one transparent medium to the other medium. So let's discuss it. First ray. The ray, this ray, it is called the incident ray. It is coming from here, okay, and it is striking on the surface between the air and the glass at this interface. So it should go in a straight line like this, but it will not go in a straight line because the speed of light will change in air and glass. So it will bend, okay, it will bend. The ray of light will bend. If we will draw this normal line N dash, okay. So this is the incident ray. The angle between the incident ray and the normal is called angle of incident that we have already learned. Now this ray which is coming from here, again it is coming from glass and it is coming out from air. Okay, it is coming out means again the speed of light will change in glass and air. So the speed of light will again change from glass to air. When it will come from glass to air, then again what will happen? The speed of light is changing. It should go in a straight line, but it is not going in a straight line. Again bending of light takes place. Again refraction takes place. Okay. The ray which is coming from air is called refracted ray. And this is the normal. The angle between the refracted ray and the normal is called angle of refraction. And the ray which is coming out, the ray which is emerging out is called emergent ray. So the angle between the emergent ray and the normal is called angle of emergence. If we will extend this incident ray like this and the emergent ray, the incident ray and the emergent ray are parallel to each other. Okay, and the distance between the emergent ray and the incident ray is called lateral displacement. What is lateral displacement? The distance between the emergent ray and the incident ray is called lateral displacement. Okay, this is direction of original ray. If the ray will come in a straight line, that will be the direction of the original ray. But due to refraction, the ray, this emergent ray and the incident ray are parallel to each other, and that is called your lateral displacement. The distance between the emergent ray and the incident ray is called lateral displacement. So once again, we will revise this once. It's easy, but only 1 or 2 times. If you will draw this diagram, it will be easy for you. First, a ray of light. This is your air medium. This is a glass, and again this is the air medium. Okay. So first, a ray of light will enter from this point, and when it will reach at this surface, it will refract. It cannot go in a straight line. Why? Because the speed of light will change in air and glass, so it will bend. It will refract. If we will draw a normal line over there, then what will happen? From air to glass, it will refract. So this ray is called refracted ray. This is called as incident ray. Again, the ray of light is coming out from glass to air. Again, refraction will take place. It cannot go in a straight line. So again, refraction will take place. So again, it is coming out, and this ray, the ray which is emerging out, is called emergent ray. Okay, so the angle between the normal and the emergent ray is called angle of emergence. If we will extend this incident line like this, Okay, so so emergent ray and the incident ray are parallel to each other. So distance between the emergent ray and the incident ray is called lateral displacement. Now, if we will talk about the rarer medium and the denser medium, what is rarer medium and what is denser medium? The medium whose density is low, that is called rarer medium, and the medium whose density is more is called denser medium. So whenever the light will travel from rarer medium to denser medium, it will bend towards the normal, as air is the rarer medium and glass is the denser medium. So when the ray of light is coming from air to glass, it will bend towards the normal. But when the ray of light will go from denser to rarer medium, what will happen? It will bend away from the normal. You can see the angle of emergence is more than that of the refracted angle of reflection. So over there the ray of light is going away from the normal. That we will read again in the next topic. Okay, so now one more question over there, it can come, why emergent ray is parallel to the direction of incident ray? See, the emergent ray and the parallel ray are parallel to each other. So why this is so? The extent of bending of the ray of light at the opposite faces PQ and SR of the rectangular glass slab is equal and opposite, so the ray emerges parallel to the incident ray. Now, which is the PQ surface? This is PQ and this is SR. What they're saying, the extent of bending of the ray of light at the opposite parallel faces, these are parallel to each other. You can see line PQ and SR are parallel to each other. Okay, so the extent of bending is equal, means angle of incidence is equal to angle of emergence over there. Since both the line are parallel to each other, PQ and SR are parallel to each other, so angle I should be equal to angle E. So both the rays are parallel to each other. Emergent rays are parallel to the incident ray. Next topic is lateral displacement. Lateral displacement, I have told you that the distance between the emergent ray and the incident ray is called lateral displacement. Sometimes definition is asked, what is lateral displacement? Then you have to write the distance between the incident ray and the emergent ray is called lateral displacement. And lateral displacement depends on two factors. On which factor it will depend? It will depend on the refractive index of the glass slab. The refractive index is written with the symbol n, or it is also given the symbol like this. So in your textbook it is given as small n. Okay, and thickness of the slab. So on which factor the lateral displacement will depend? It will depend on the refractive index of the glass, and it is also depending on the thickness of the glass slab. So what is this refractive index? That we'll read in the next section. Okay, now what are the laws of reflection of light? This is very important topic, as in reflection section we have read the laws of reflection. Now we'll read about the laws of refraction. The first law is easy. The incident ray, the refracted ray and the normal to the interface of two transparent media at the point of incidence all lie on the same plane. Suppose we have air over there. First medium is air and the second medium is water. Okay, this is the incident ray. This we have drawn the normal. This is the refracted ray. Okay, incident ray, refracted ray. So according to this law, the incident ray, the refracted ray and the normal at the point of incidence, this is the point of incidence, all lie on the same plane. Okay, to the interface of two transparent media, means where this is the interface of two transparent medium, air and water. This is the point of incidence also. So all the rays will lie on the same plane. You can write the incident ray, the refracted ray and the normal at the point of incidence all lie on the same plane. Like that also you can write. Second law. What is the second law? The ratio of sine of angle of incidence to the sine of angle of refraction is a constant for a light of a given color and for a given pair of media. This law is also known as Snell's law. Okay, this we'll understand through a diagram. Suppose this is air, first medium, this is water, second medium. A ray of light is coming like this. This is the normal, this is the refracted ray, this is incident ray, this is refracted ray. Refraction is taking place over there. So what they are telling, that the sine of angle of I, sine I, is the ratio of sine of angle I to the sine of angle R should be constant for a given pair of media and for a given color. For suppose we have a color for a given color. Suppose we have red color over there. Okay, if refraction will take place at this point, this point, this point, any point the refraction will take place, the ratio of sine of angle I to sine of R should be constant for red color. If we will change the color, then again the value will be different, but for a given color it should be constant. So you should remember the law. The ratio of sine of angle of incidence to the sine of angle of refraction is constant for the light of a given color and for the given pair of media. Suppose we have taken air and water as the media. Okay, pair of media, two pairs we have taken, air and water, and for a given color, so it should be constant. This is the mathematical form of this law. Sin I by sin R is equal to constant, and this law is called Snell's law of refraction. Sometimes question is asked, state Snell's law of refraction. That time you have to write the statement. The ratio of sine of angle of incidence to the sine of angle of refraction is constant for a given color and for a given pair of media. This law is called Snell's law of refraction. So with this we have finished the laws of refraction. It is important, so learn these laws. Next we have the refractive index. What is refractive index? It is denoted with the symbol small n. Okay, refractive index small n. The symbol is given for refractive index. The ratio, what is the definition of this one? The ratio of speed of light in a given pair of medium is called refractive index. So it is a ratio for a speed of light in a given pair of medium is called refractive index. It does not have any unit because we have to take the ratio of speed. So speed ratio, if a unit we will write, it will be cancelled out. So it does not have any unit. Now, the refractive index of medium 2 with respect to medium 1 is given by N21. This is for what we call to this one, refractive index of second medium with respect to 1. Okay, so for this one, what formula you have to write? Speed of light in medium 1 divided by speed of light in medium 2. V1 by V2. V1 is the speed of light in medium 1 and V2 is the speed of light in medium 2. So this is the formula for calculating the refractive index of medium 2 with respect to 1. Suppose in the question speed of light in medium 1 is given and speed of light in medium 2 is given, and you have to calculate speed of refractive index of medium 2 with respect to 1. Then you have to use this formula. Speed of light in medium 1 divided by speed of light in medium 2. One or two more formulas you have in this one. Suppose in the question refractive index of first medium with respect to second medium is given and you want to calculate the refractive index of second medium with respect to 1. Then how you will calculate that one? Refractive index of second medium with respect to 1 is reciprocal of refractive index of first medium with respect to 2. So this is our one formula. Okay, N21 is equal to V1 by V2. N21 is equal to 1 by N12. And one more formula we'll read in absolute refractive index. Okay, the refractive index of a medium with respect to vacuum or air is called absolute refractive index. Nm, okay, refractive index of medium is equal to speed of light in air divided by speed of light in medium. This medium can be anything like air, glass, water, anything, but the top one should be common, speed of light in air. It is given a symbol of C and speed of light in medium can be written as V. So what is the speed of light in air? 3 into 10 to the power 8 meter per second. So that you have to place over there, and whatever be the speed of light in the medium, that we have to place over there, we'll get the answer. Suppose we want to calculate the speed of light in diamond. Okay, so speed of light in air is given 3 into 10 to the power 8 meter per second. Speed of light speed of light in glass or air, if you want to calculate, that we should know. It should be given in the question that you have to put over there, you have to divide, you'll get the answer. Okay. Next, refractive index of diamond is the highest. In your textbook, one list is given for refractive index. Different types of substances are given over there. So among that, diamond is having the highest refractive index, that is 2.42. So what does this mean? It means that speed of light is 1 by 2.42 times less in diamond than in vacuum. So this means what? That speed of light should be 1 by 2.42 times less in diamond than in vacuum. So this is the meaning of this statement. Okay, so this was all about your refractive index. You should remember this formula. Refractive index of second medium with first is equal to speed of light in medium 1 divided by speed of light in medium 2. If you want to calculate the refractive index of a medium, then what formula you have to use? Speed of light in air divided by speed of light in the medium. The medium speed of light in the medium will be given in the question. You have to only use this formula and you have to calculate. That will do in the numericals, then your concept will be clear at that time. Our next topic is optically denser and optically rarer medium that we have talked about in that topic, refraction through glass slab. Okay, so what is optically denser medium? Out of the two given media, we have two given media. Whenever refraction will take place, two medium should be required. One can be either glass or water, glass or air, anything. Okay, so out of the two given media, the medium with higher value of refractive index is called optically denser medium. So whenever the medium is having higher value of the medium which is having the higher value of refractive index or density, that is called optically denser medium. And what is your optically rarer medium? Out of the given media, the medium with lower value of refractive index is called optically rare medium, and the medium which will have the lower value of refractive index, that is called optically rarer medium. Okay, for example, air will always have lower value of refractive index, that is called rarer medium. Water is having higher value of refractive index, that is called optically denser medium. So you have to remember the whose refractive index will be more, that is called optically denser medium, and whose refractive index will be less, that is called rarer medium. Okay, so now 2 points are given over there. When light enters obliquely from a rarer to a denser medium, rarer medium means whose refractive index is less, to a denser medium, it bends towards the normal. This is the case for that one. When the light will enter from rarer medium to denser medium, suppose if we take over there air, our rarer medium is air and the denser medium is water. So when light will enter from air to water, what it will do? It will bend towards the normal. Okay, this is the normal, this is the incident ray, this is the ray which is coming from there, and if you will draw one normal, and this is the refracted ray, what it will do, it is going from rarer medium to denser medium, it will bend towards the normal, means the angle of refraction over there, it will decrease, and angle of incidence should be more than angle of refraction. You can see angle of incidence is more than angle of refraction. In this case, denser medium means refractive index should be more, n2 is more than n1. Next case, when light enters from a denser medium to rarer medium, denser if we take water over there, and rarer if we take air over there. So when light is coming from this is the incident ray, from water to air, it will bend away from the normal. Whenever the light will enter from denser to rarer medium, from water to air, it will bend away from the normal. In this case, the angle of refraction is more than angle of incidence. So you have to remember these 2 points. This will be helpful for you in that glass slab, or sometimes questions is also asked, what will happen when the light will enter from a rarer to a denser medium. That time you have to write the answer. When light will enter from rarer to denser medium, it will bend towards the normal. And one more point you have to remember, when light will enter from a denser medium to rarer medium, it will bend away from the normal. It is going away from the normal. You can see the angle is increasing, but in this case it is moving towards the normal. Angle is decreasing in this one. So these are the 2 points which you have to remember. Next one, we'll talk about spherical lenses. In the last section in reflection, we have read about spherical mirrors. In this one, we'll read about spherical lenses. So what are spherical lenses? Lenses are defined as transparent materials which are bounded by two surfaces, out of which one or both surfaces can be spherical. So what are lenses? Lenses are transparent material, okay, by which we can see, through which we can see, which are bounded by two surfaces. Two surfaces should be present in lens. One surface or both surfaces can be spherical. Any one should be spherical, but it may be possible that both the surfaces can be spherical. So there are how many types of lenses? There are 2 types of spherical lens, convex lens and concave lens. So what is a convex lens? You can see in the diagram, this is concave lens, convex lens, and this is concave lens. You can see in convex lens, it is thick at the center and thin at the edges. But in concave lens, it is thin at the center and thick at the corners or the edges. Okay. So what is convex lens? A lens which is thick at the center. You can see it is thick at the center, then at the edges is called a convex lens or converging lens. Convex lens is also called converging lens. Why it is called converging lens? Because when the ray of light will pass through the convex lens, all the light will meet at a point. At the focus they are meeting, so all the rays of lights are converging, meeting at a point. So that's why it is called a converging lens. So you should remember, convex lens are also called converging lens. They are thick at the center and thin at the edges. Now, what is concave lens? Concave lens is thin at the center, then at the edges. So, it is also called diverging lens. So concave lens, two properties you should remember. It is thin at the center and thick at the edges. It is also called diverging lens. So why it is called diverging lens? Well, ray of light will pass through the concave lens. What will happen? The rays of light will diverge. It will strike at this point, okay, and this will go like this, like this. It will come like this, then the ray of light will incident, meeting at this point, it will go like this. And if you will extend this ray of light, they will meet at a point focus. Okay, so that's why they are called converging and the diverging lenses. Now we'll discuss the rules for image formation by convex lens. In this, in case of lenses also, we have to study the ray diagrams for convex lens as well as for concave lens. For this also we have some rules. So first of all, we'll discuss the rules for convex lens. The first rule is a ray of light parallel to the principal axis of a convex lens always pass through the focus of the other side of the lens. Suppose this is your convex lens. Okay, so in this one is your focus point f1, and for second side, this is the first side and this is the second side. This side you have to mark it f1 and this side you have to mark it f2. Okay, and again if you want to mark, this will be 2f1 and this will be 2f2, this point 2f2, but in this you don't need this one. Okay, so what they are saying, whenever a ray of light will be parallel, this is the principal axis. Okay, this is the center point, optical center. This is called the optical center of the lens. Whenever ray of light will pass through the principal axis, will be parallel to the principal axis, it will pass through the focus on the other side. From this side the ray of light is coming, incident ray. When it will come and strike at the surface, it will go like this. This is the refracted ray. So this will be your, it will pass through the focus of the other side. So this is the first rule. The second rule, a ray of light passing through the principal focus will emerge parallel to the principal axis after refraction. Just opposite. When a ray of light will pass through the focus, suppose this ray of light is coming from this focus. This is the incident ray which is coming from the focus. After refraction, it will be parallel to the principal axis. In the first case, we have read that when a ray of light will be parallel to the principal axis, after refraction, it will pass through the focus. But in second case, if the ray of light will pass through the principal focus, after refraction, it will be parallel to the principal focus. And the third rule is very easy. When a ray of light passing through the optical center will emerge out without any deviation. Means whenever the ray of light will pass through the optical center, this is your center point, optical center, this is the incident ray, it will pass like this in a straight line without any without any deviation. It will not go this side also, that side also, it will pass in a straight way. So these are the three laws which we have read in case of convex lens. Now we'll discuss one by one the ray diagrams for convex lens. In this altogether 6 diagrams are given. 6 cases we have to discuss for convex lens, and for concave lens only 2 diagrams are there. So in this first case, what we have, when the object is at infinity, this is the this is the convex lens Mn. Okay, this is the principal axis. At the center we have the optical center. This is the focus point f1. This is the second side 2f1 focus point. Okay, or you can write this one as center of curvature c1 also. This is f2 and this is c2, or you can write 2f2. Okay, when the rays of light will be parallel, when the object is at infinity, so we cannot see the object, it is at infinity, so rays of light will come from that object, so it will be parallel to the principal axis. From the first rule what we have read, that when the rays of light will be parallel to the principal axis, after refraction they will pass through the focus point on the other side. So all the rays of light will pass through the f2. So all of them are meeting at point f2. You can see point size image is formed over there. So what will be the image position? All images formed at f2, at focus f2. What should be the nature of the image? All the rays are actually meeting at a point. So if the rays of light are actually meeting, then we can say that image is real and inverted. And what is the size? Since you can see it is a point size image, so you can write highly diminished or point size image. Okay, so second case is when the object is beyond 2f1. Beyond 2f1 means before 2f1. Okay, so this object, you can see AB is the object, we have placed it beyond 2f1. So one ray of light will be parallel to the principal axis. We know that when the ray of light will be parallel to the principal axis, after refraction, it will pass through the focus on the other side. It will pass through f2. The other ray of light we can draw like that. It can pass through the optical center O. So we know that if the ray of light will pass through optical center O, it will pass in a straight line without any deviation. So these two rays of light will meet at a point over there, A dash, B dash. This will be your image. Okay, so you can see the image is formed between f2 and 2f2. Okay, so what is the image position between f2 and 2f2? Nature of the images, since the rays of light are actually meeting, so we can write real and inverted. Okay, and the size is diminished size. You can see small size of the image is formed in this case, so you have to write diminished image. Why we have written inverted? You can see the arrow upward, but in this case the arrow is pointing downward, and it is, since it is a real image, we know that all real images are inverted in nature. Third case, when the object is at 2f1. This is our 2f1. So we have placed the object AB over there. One ray of light will come from this one parallel to principal axis. It will pass through the focus f2. The second ray of light we can pass through the optical center O. Both the rays will meet at a point 2f2. Okay, when the object is placed at 2f1, the rays of light will meet at 2f2. So the image position will be at 2f2. Okay, and what will the nature of the image? Real and inverted. Same size. You can see the size is the same, so you have to write size of the image as same size. Next is when the object is placed between f1 and 2f1. The fourth case, when the object is placed between f1 and 2f1. At this point, AB is your object. Okay, one ray of light will be parallel to the principal axis. It will pass through the focus after refraction. The second ray of light, we can pass through it through optical center. This ray of light, both the rays of light are meeting at a point over there, means beyond 2f2. This is your object and it is very big in size, A dash, B dash. So what will be the image position? Beyond 2f2, after 2f2. Okay, and nature of the image is real and inverted because both the rays are actually meeting, and size is enlarged size, very big in size. Fifth one, when the object is at focus f1. Okay, now we have placed the object at the focus f1. One ray of light will be parallel to the principal axis. It will pass through f2. Okay, and the second ray of light will pass through the optical center O. But both the rays will not meet. If we will extend also, they will not meet. The image will be formed at infinity that time. They will meet, but at infinity they will meet. So the image position will be at infinity. Nature of the image, real and inverted, because both the rays are actually meeting. So we can write real and inverted. And the size will be very high. If the image will be formed at infinity, the size should be very high. So infinitely large, or you can write highly enlarged. And the last case, that is the sixth case. Where do we place that object? We will place the object between f1 and optical center O. At this point, between f1 and O, AB is our object. A ray of light will pass through this one. It will pass through focus f1. Second ray of light we can pass through the optical center O. But as we can see, these two rays cannot meet. So what we will do, we'll extend the lines. We'll extend these two rays and they will meet at a point beyond 2f2. Okay. So what will be the image position? On the same side of the lens as the object. We have placed the lens on this side. Image is also forming on this side. So we'll write on the same side as that of the lens. Nature of the image, you can see that we have extended the lines. The rays of lines are not meeting by their own. We have to extend the lines. Then it is virtual and erect. You can see both the arrows are on the top of that. So they are natural and erect. And size will be enlarged size. You can see the size of the image is so large as compared to the object, so it is enlarged size. So these are the 6 cases of the image formation in case of convex lens. So one by one you have to practice these diagrams, then it will be clear for you. You have to remember the 3 rules. According to the 3 rules, you have to draw the diagram. Next one, rule for image formation by concave lens. Now we'll discuss the rules for concave lens. So in this also we have 3 rules. First rule is a ray of light parallel to the principal axis appear to diverge from the principal focus located on the same side of the lens. This is your concave lens. This is the optical center O. This is focus point f1 and this is focus point f2. So a ray of light which is parallel to the principal axis. This is an incident ray. After refraction, what it will do? It will diverge. Okay, it will not pass through the f2, it will diverge from this point. It is going on this line. This is your refracted ray. If you'll extend this one, then it will pass through f1. It appears to diverge from the principal focus located on the same side of the lens. This you can see focus point. This is locating on the same side of the lens, so it will diverge. It will go on. So if you'll extend, it will then pass through this one. Second law, a ray of light appearing to meet at the principal focus of a concave lens will emerge parallel to the principal focus. Suppose this ray of light is coming from there. Okay, from here it is coming. Ray of light is coming from there. Okay, it appears to meet at f2. If we'll extend this, it appear to meet, but it will be parallel to the principal axis like this. Okay, just opposite to each other. And the third law is that if we will pass the ray of light through optical center O, it will pass through it without any deviation at what we have read in case of convex lens. Now the two cases we'll discuss over there. Also, ray diagram for image formed by concave lens. First one is when object is placed at infinity. The object is placed at infinity somewhere over there. So rays of light will come from there, okay, and when they will strike at the surface, refraction will take place. The ray of light will diverge. They will diverge in this direction, that direction. So they will not meet at a point. If you will extend these lines, then only they will meet at a point F1. Okay, so image is formed at focus F1. And what will be the nature of the image? Since the rays of light are not meeting by their own, we have to extend the lights. Then it will be virtual and erect, and the size is point size or highly diminished size. And the second one is when the object is as placed at infinity and optical center O of the lens. Infinity and optical center O. This is the optical center O, and this point is in between infinity and optical center O. So one ray of light will be parallel to the principal axis. It will diverge in this direction. It will go in that direction. And the second ray of light you can pass through the optical center. Both the rays of light are meeting at a point over there, A dash, B dash. So the object is formed at F1 and between F1 and O. So the image position will be between focus 1 and optical center O. And since the rays they are appearing to meet, so we can write the nature of the image is virtual and erect, and the size of the image will be diminished, small in size, so it is diminished in size. So with this we have finished the ray diagrams for concave lens also and convex lens also. Our next topic is sign conventions for spherical lenses. This is very important for solving the numericals also, so listen to it carefully. Okay, sign conventions are similar to one used for spherical mirror, except the measurements are taken from the optical centers of the lens. What we have read in case of spherical mirrors, the sign convention, like that only we have to do over there. Only difference is that we have to take the optical center of the lens. You have seen the one point O over there, that is the optical center. So what will be the focal length of the convex lens? Focal length of the convex lens will always be positive. Okay, you have to remember that the focal length of the convex lens should always be positive, and the focal length of a concave lens is always negative. Suppose in the question they will give you that the focal length of a lens is -2 meter. Which type of lens is that? So you can see the negative sign is given over there. You can say that it is a concave lens. If it is +2 meter, then you can say since the focal length is in positive, so we can say that the focal length is the type of lens is convex lens. Okay, now one more thing we have to read in this one is that lens formula. In mirror formula we have read that 1 by V plus 1 by U is equal to 1 by F, but lens formula is 1 by V minus 1 by U is equal to 1 by F. You have to place one negative sign in between this one. In mirror formula we have written 1 by V plus 1 by U is equal to 1 by F, right? But in lens formula you have to write 1 by V minus 1 by U is equal to 1 by F. What is V? This is image distance. U is object distance and F is the focal length. Remember this one. V is your image distance, U is the object distance, and F is your focal length. So how you will remember that which is your image distance and which is your object distance? Since the object is written with O symbol, okay, O and U is somewhat looking like similar. So you have to remember that object distance is always given a symbol of U and image distance is given a symbol of V. F is focal length, F for focal, F for focal length. Now we have to read about magnification also over there. So what is magnification? It is defined as a ratio of the height of the image to the height of the object. Suppose we have taken the height of the image as h dash and height of the object as h. So magnification will be h dash by h. In case of mirror also we have read that magnification is equal to height of the image divided by height of the object. Okay, and in terms of image distance and object distance we have written in case of mirror formula m is equal to minus V by U. But in case of lens formula, you have to write m is equal to V by U, which is also equal to h dash by h. Okay. Suppose in the question height is not given, only image distance and object distance is given. Then in terms of that, you can easily calculate the mirror formula. Sorry, magnification. Okay. So this was all about your magnification and lens formula. And the last topic of this chapter is power of the lens. What is power of the lens? Okay, it is defined as reciprocal of focal length in meter. Whenever the focal length will be in meter, okay, and if you will take the reciprocal of focal length in meter, that time power, that is called power. Okay, so what is power? Power is defined as reciprocal of focal length in meter. P is power and F is the focal length in meter. Power should always be in meter. It should not be in centimeter. If in the question it will be given in the centimeter, you have to convert that into meter. After that only you can find the power of the lens. And the SI unit of power of the lens is diopter. Symbol is capital D. 1 diopter is power of a lens whose focal length is 1 meter. So what is the definition of 1 diopter? It is the power of a lens when focal length is 1 meter. Power of a convex lens is always positive and power of a concave lens is always negative. This 2 point also you have to remember. Power of convex lens. Okay. Power of convex lens is positive and power of concave lens is negative. Okay, suppose you have to find the power of a combination of lens in which different types of lenses are given, means whose power are given P1, P2, P3, P4, P10. Then how you will find the total power? You have to add all the powers P1, P2, P3, P4. Okay, suppose in the question it will be given that power of a lens is plus 5 diopter. Now tell that name the type of lens, which lens is used over there. Then since the positive sign you can see over there, you can say that the type of lens is a convex lens. So you should remember these 2 points. Power of a convex lens is positive and power of a concave lens is negative. So with this we have finished the chapter light, reflection and refraction. So I hope you all have understood this chapter. If you have any doubt in any topic, you can comment in the comment section. And one more thing I want to tell over there, we have this sign convention. Okay, in this whenever you will take the object height, okay, from top to bottom, it will be taken as positive. Okay, and downward height, whenever you will take that image height, it will be taken as negative. Object height should always be positive, image height should always be negative. And one more thing, the object distance, that is u, is always taken as negative. Okay, object distance u, whatever will be the given in the question. Suppose it is given u as 5 centimeter, but when you will solve the numerical, you have to put the negative sign over there, because object distance u is always taken as negative. Okay, next one, focal length of the concave mirror is negative and focal length of the convex mirror is positive. These things you have to remember. So with this we have finished the chapter. Learn the definitions, laws of reflection, refraction, practice the ray diagrams of each and everything, convex lens, whether it is a mirror or it is a lens. And what thing, for numericals I will make a separate video, then your concepts will be clear in that also. So with this we have finished the chapter. Thank you for watching my channel and motivating me so much. If you like this tutorial, then please click on the like button and share it with your friends also. Don't forget to click on the bell icon so that whenever I will be uploading a new video, you will get the notification for that. And if you are new to my channel, then please subscribe to it. And if you need the video for any other topics also, then you can comment in the comment section. I will try to make it soon. Thank you for watching my channel. And for 10 student, I have a request from you all that please join the Facebook group, so that whenever any update will be there, I will post that in that Facebook page, so that you will know about that. If suppose I will make some video, and if you have not seen that thing in the YouTube, then you can, through Facebook, you can know that. If any chapters notes also if I am providing, then also you can know that. Sometime it may be possible that I will come live and we will discuss the multiple choice questions from each and every chapter. Then also it will be easy for you to connect with me. So please join that Facebook group. Thank you for watching my channel.